A now deleted tweet by Mets owner Steve Cohen. Losses in 5 of their last 6 games, including a near sweep against the Braves, a sweep at Citi Field against the Phillies, and an ugly performance in Philadelphia on Wednesday has Mets fans panicking, and it seems like the owner may be panicking a little bit. We have a lot of Mets news to get into, and we'll do all of that with our special guest this week, former Mets relief pitcher, the lefty. Now you can see him on SNY. You can hear him on the Shea Station podcast. It's Jerry Blevins. He will join us on this episode of the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. Let's do it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Mets Magic with Jake Brown.
And it's in there, strike 3 called. The Mets win the pennant. The New York Mets have won the National League pennant. Put it in the books. The New York Mets, for the first time in 15 years, are champions of the National League.
The sickest New York Mets podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome back to the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. I am your host, Jake Brown. You can hit me at Jake Brown Radio on social media. You can find the show at Sick Pod Mets on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube page right now if you're watching us on YouTube, youtube.com/@the-sick-podcast, Mets Magic. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button and comment below how you're feeling about the show and about the Mets right now. The vibes are very much down, and you can subscribe wherever you get podcasts. It's Apple, Spotify, wherever you get pods. Give us a 5-star rating. Write in a nice review. We appreciate it. Share it with your Mets fan friends, your family, and let them know to come to Mets Magic. Joining me in just a minute on the show will be the great Jerry Blevins, the well-dressed, great analyst, was a great pitcher. Lefty specialist, but he got a lot of guys out in his career. He's going to join me in legit 1 minute. But, you know, we'll bring Jerry on here as we start with the struggling Mets who losing ways continue. Losing 3 straight to the Phillies, including on Wednesday, a game I had to turn off. It got so ugly and unwatchable. They've lost 5 of the last 6. Their only win, I was there on Sunday in the Cadillac Club for the walk-off win from Brandon Nimmo. They were a walk-off away from 6 straight losses. They're 19-23. They're in 4th place, and the losses seem to progressively keep getting worse. And listen, it's May 16th. It's a long season. There's a lot of time. We're not calling the season over here. But they aren't hitting enough. They're making mistakes in the field, making mistakes on the base paths. It's affecting the pitching staff who, you know, guys trying to come back, guys still hurt. The pitching right now has been a bit mediocre, but more so the offense has not been good enough. Nothing's really going right. And now, adding to this, a deleted tweet from Steve Cohen. Let's flash this deleted tweet, replying to Mac News and Link. I don't know who this guy is, but Steve felt compelled to reply to this with, "All in the future, not much we can do until trade deadline." And then within an hour, I believe, that tweet was deleted, but screenshots live forever, and that is here to stay. Not a great sign that your owner is talking about, you know, the trade deadline on May 16th, because we were already thinking that, but now every Met fan has their mind on the trade deadline. But we got 2 months till we get there. And attendance that's been down, you know, I love going to Met games. Attendance has been down. And if this team's already talking about trade deadline, I don't know if that's the best way to sell tickets the next 2 months outside of, you know, Darryl Strawberry Day in a couple of weeks. A little concerning. Let's bring on our guest now. He is waiting and ready to go. The pride of Ohio.
Wow.
Jerry Blevins. Jerry, you look a little disheveled this morning. Are you okay?
I just got out of the shower, so this is what we're dealing with this morning.
Are you on Central Time? Are you an hour behind?
I'm East Coast time, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so he's on East Coast time. It is our special guest. Pitched 13 years, the lucky number 13, in the big leagues from 2007 through 2009, 4 seasons with the Mets, 2015 through 2018. You basically had a 30-win season if you put your career together. 30 and 13 is an impressive overall record for a reliever, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'll take it. Everything looks better in retrospect, Jake. All my career accomplishments, everything is rose tinted when you look back upon it in a sense. So I will take it. I'm happy with where I ended up in my career. It was a fun run, man. I do miss parts of it, but happy to be where I am as well.
Hey, the Mets could use a lefty right now with Brooks Raley. Who knows when he's coming back? They could use one more. Do you got like an 88-mile-an-hour cheese in you left or no?
No, I don't. Those days have sailed. But I am. That's a bigger loss than I think people are alluding to and letting. They've been missing Brooks Raley. The load bearing that he's putting on the other guys with his absence. It's not him. I don't want to put this on Brooks Raley. Stuff happens. But I think his absence is being felt on a bigger scale, and the fact that they have no idea what's going on and when is a little concerning because they do miss him.
Yes, they do, and it's one of many issues this team is dealing with. You can catch Jerry talking about it on the Shea Station podcast with the great Jolly Olive with John Boy and SNY as well, occasionally pre and post game. You do a little baseball night in New York here and there, right? When you're in town,
I do. I get bored here in Ohio between my sets, and I try to do the best I can. I'll be back in studio for pre and post game this weekend, so starting tomorrow.
All right, catch them on SNY this weekend. The pride of Dayton, of course, Jerry Blevins, number 39 on the scorecard, number 1 in our hearts. Steve Cohen is number 1 on the head honcho list of the New York Mets, and I know you saw the tweet. The screenshots are up there. What'd you think of that? Also, why is he replying to this random blogger guy? Maybe he's a fan of his work, but that was kind of odd as well.
That was more the what's he think? Why is he following this guy? I don't mind the tweet. This is what you get when you have an owner that's in touch and communicates. Sometimes you're going to have, I probably shouldn't have sent that, and delete it and try to get rid of it. It doesn't change the way I look at the team. I think you summed it up perfectly. They're capable of making a push to the wild card, but their volatility is kind of up and down, and they're playing really poorly right now. So I understand that Steve Cohen is keeping his options open. I wish he would not tweet about it to give us less talking points. But as a player, it doesn't affect you. You're like, whatever. We understand that if we don't step up, that guys are going to get shipped off. They showed it last year with pushing guys out. So I like the fact that the owner's paying attention. I played for owners that had no idea that they owned a baseball team. So the fact that he's in tune, paying attention, and willing to make moves, I guess as an organization, that's a plus.
So you had owners who they didn't have one conversation. They never came in the clubhouse all season, and maybe they signed their name on the check that you got in the mail or your direct deposit. But other than that, you didn't hear from them all year.
Yeah, so I played in Oakland, and we see the fiasco that is the Athletics right now on their move. I was there for, I think, 7 years, and I'm pretty sure I never saw Steve Fisher at all. Lou Wolf was the managing partner at the time. He was like a minority owner, but he was, I think they were college roommates with Bud Selig, so he was trying to get them to move out of the stadium earlier, and then, whatever. But I've had owners be on the peripheral, never hear from them. The learners were kind of in between where they were around, but they weren't meddling. And then I've been, the Wilpon era where their presence is felt all the time. And I've been, where the Braves, where it's owned by a conglomerate, where there's really no point person. So I think we have a very good, if you're a fan of the organization of the New York Mets, you're in great hands because the guy cares. He's willing to swallow his pride and make moves when need be. He's attuned and in tune with what's going on. And sometimes you're going to get a tweet fired off that he probably shouldn't have said, but I like where we're at. And I like the fact that he's paying attention to the larger picture all the time.
Yeah, he's speaking the truth here, and this is a team that's going to be active at the trade deadline. You just worry here because I think they are better than a 19-23 team making mistakes left and right like they did yesterday in the last few days. Obviously, Monday they get a tough break with Edwin Diaz struggle, but he also got one of the worst calls in the history of baseball, a very clear swing that it would have been strike 2. So that wasn't the final out, but a better chance for a strikeout. Instead, it's the game tying run scoring. So they haven't really caught some breaks with the umpiring either. I don't think Mendoza has been a story, which is good. He's been fine as a manager. He hasn't pulled really wrong triggers. He's pulled some right triggers, but he's been solid.
He's been great.
Yeah.
I honestly, truly think he's been great. I think it gets kind of brushed under the rug. Like when Quintana, he let Quintana go in. He talked to Minaya and pulled him. I think he's making all the right moves. I think the way he's communicating with his players, the way he's handled the media, it's only May, but you see what Ron Washington's doing, a veteran, a guy that's been around the game forever. You see him just throw Luis Guillorme under the bus. He's panicking a little bit. He realizes that his team is not very good, and he's got 4 more months of oh shit, what are you doing? Why aren't you winning? Carlos Mendoza hasn't panicked. He hasn't thrown anyone under the bus. He's stood in front. He's held himself accountable. He's held his players accountable. I think the Mets have found a really, really fantastic manager in Carlos Mendoza.
Yeah, he's been probably a little bit better than I expected, although it's early. And, David Stern's just been quick to kind of pull the trigger in terms of roster moves and roster changes. Let's flash a tweet here from Anthony DiComo about just the other day. I mean, this was all in one day. Mark Viento's recalled, which was a great move. And, of course, his first at-bat RBI double. Joey Wendell DFA'd, and you feel bad for the guy. Joey Wendell's had a very nice career, but everything kind of has gone wrong for him here in the field. And then, he hasn't had a lot of time at the plate, but hasn't really capitalized at the plate. Joey Lucchesi comes up. He's kind of been what he's been. He's good for 4 innings. 5th inning kind of implodes. Yohan Ramirez has been DFA'd more than like any guy that I've ever seen. He's like Nelson Figueroa right now, Yohan Ramirez. Jose Budo option. Grant Hartwig recalled. The Mets will owe Joey Wendell's balance unless another team gets him. So the roster changes are off the charts here, Jerry. And I think the Mets are saying, hey, like if you don't perform here, the leash is short. And I think that leash could be short if they could find a partner for Jeff McNeil. I mean, Jeff McNeil, if he's not hitting for you, Jerry, what good is he for? He's a singles hitter, and if he's not hitting 280 plus, I just don't know with $30 million owed over the next couple of years, is it too big of a number for a team to eat? But when you look at these pieces up and down, and Viento's probably a guy who stay, Beatty's not really going anywhere. Jeff McNeil is part of that infield that you're like, he might be the odd man out at some point.
Yeah, my partner, Jolly Olive, yesterday we recorded our podcast, and he said that Jeff McNeil is the difference because the top of the order, although they've had their ups and downs with Nimmo's been solid, Lindor's turned it on, Pete looks like he's coming out of it, JD Martinez is starting to play well. The bottom of the order hasn't carried their weight, and the biggest reason he pointed to Jeff McNeil because that's the one guy on the bottom of the order that you truly counted on. Everybody else was a wild card, including when Alvarez was there. Harrison Bader, he's really streaky. You had Brett Beatty, who you were trying to figure out, but Jeff McNeil was the one that you were like, all right, at least we're going to get a guy on base consistently to turn that lineup over. And he's simply not performed. I don't think there's a trade partner out there because of his age, because of the amount of money left. And I don't think it's worth swallowing a lot of that contract personally in order to ship him off, because I think his skill set, he can easily get you to bounce. And they have nobody to play second base. Like that, if you're looking for at-bats for Vientos and Beatty at the same time, they can't play second base. So he's got to be there. And you need your season is kind of sitting on his shoulders. So I understand the thought process, but there's no replacement that they have for him.
The replacement down the road would be Luis Angel Acuna, but he has not been good in AAA so far. So he's got to start turning it on in AAA if the Mets want to get – you can't really call up a 230 hitter in AAA and say, all right, let's give him a shot now. He's clearly not ready But yeah, Jeff McNeil, life comes at you fast. This was a contract when the Mets signed it. You're like, wow, what a bargain the Mets just got for the batting champ. He signs the contract, has a kid. Maybe that plays a factor. Family changes. Who knows? He's got things going on. I think he has another kid on the way potentially. I thought at the event I was at last night, his wife was pregnant. I can't confirm, but I thought that was.
I will punt. I know better than to touch that comment. We'll strike that from the record just in case.
Yeah, let's edit that out. I'm not 100% sure. Pretty sure, but yeah, we'll delete that out of here. But listen, over the next couple of years, 15.75 next year, 15.75 the year after. So you're right. The Mets would have to eat at least half of that money. So they've been willing in the past. They did a lot of it with Verlander, Scherzer. So we'll find out if they do that. But he really is that odd man out. Like you said, Pete Alonso, he's turning it on. But if he turns it on and you're 5 games under 500 on July 30th, you got to consider trading him, right? Despite the anger the fans might have if you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Shohei Ohtani in LA. Should they have traded him? Absolutely. Pete Alonso, that would be very interesting. Trade deadline. But I think it would be a smart move. If you're out of it, you can sign him back in the offseason. And he understands business. If he's signing back, he wants to have the team better when he returns. So he would understand. It would be tough. But this is a business and he gets it. So yeah, I mean, I think as weird as it would be to see him in a new uniform, and letting him get a taste of outside New York City would be an interesting thing, because he might find his life a little bit easier on the outside, but he loves it here. I think it's a no-brainer that if you are not in contention, you trade your best trade piece. You make the most of it, and he's definitely one of those.
By the way, a baby is coming. I did.
Okay.
On his Instagram, I knew that was the case. Luca's built-in bestie is coming fall 2024 to be a little sister for Lucas, their son. So I'm off the hook there.
You did it. I'm proud of you.
I thought that was the case, but you obviously never want to confirm that. As a big man myself, you never want to confirm. I look like I could have a baby after a Mets season and all the food that I consume at that ballpark.
You see what I'm dealing with. So this is what you got. It's early in the morning. I had to send one off to school. Now I've got another one, another little boy that I got to take care of in a little bit. So this is the best I got right now.
You got 2 kids?
I got 2 boys, just turned 6 and 4.5.
And that's it. That's a wrap on the blood.
That's my wife and I like to play one-on-one defense. So yeah, no more. I don't want to be outnumbered in my own house.
I agree. Like, my mom had 3. I was the third, and obviously I was the last one. She couldn't stand anymore after me. And she kept having Mrs. Brown, you have a lovely daughter, the song come on in the car after. And she ends up having 3 boys. So she's like, the song didn't work all 3 times. So I think I'm done after 3. But I agree. The one-on-one is good. The third one, then you need a sitter. You need a nanny sometimes, and it gets a little
I've heard it from everyone that has 3. They're like, if you have 3, you might as well have 7, because it's all chaos all the time. So that made me want to have 2, and that was it. So that was the end.
You made the right call. Speaking of 3 outs has not been the easiest for a guy we thought would always be easy, and that's Edwin Diaz. And I think that's another added layer to this kind of frustrating Mets season. It's early, and for the most part, he's been good, but he's not looked like, cue the trumpets. Let's have Timmy Trumpet show up and film a movie at Citi Field. Edwin Diaz, he's been so. And from a torn ACL, it takes time, but the velocity's down. He doesn't look like he has the same confidence in his pitches. And it's May 16th. It's not April 16th anymore. We're 6 weeks into this season, so we can still partially use that as an excuse. You could speak to this as a pitcher, but are you a little bit concerned with, Mr. Lockdown, Edwin Diaz, and a couple of games that he's blown so far?
Concern is not deep. I'm not concerned about him any more than I was to start the year. This is kind of what I expected. He came out of the gate and blew me away. I was like, oh shit, maybe he's not going to have any hiccups. But he's been out of the game for a full year. He couldn't have that competition. And from 2020, he was locked in mechanically. And for a guy with a similar build, it's so easy to get off your mechanics, and he's got those long levers and his stride is huge. So if he's off mechanically even this much, by the time it comes out of his hand, you can see the effects. I expect him, his stuff is still there. His fastball velocity, while it's not 99, he's throwing 97, 98 consistently, and it's still got swing and miss, like vertical ride. His slider is inconsistent. This is kind of what I expected. The biggest difference between 2021 and 2022 for him was his ability to adjust quickly on how to get back. So he needs everything to go glove side. He throws to one side of the plate. When he's off, he's missing arm side up. His fastball shoots up. His slider has no bite. It kind of backs up. But he was able to not throw two crappy ones in a row because he made that switch. So even it's his mistakes are more often now than they were in years prior. But as he gets more innings, as he continues to throw, that confidence will grow, and his mechanical adjustments should go back to him being able to make those on the fly. You can't make up for an entire year of missed mound work and in-game work. You can't simulate that. He'll be okay. I think he's okay now. I think he'll be great as long as he maintains health by July. I'm not worried about him, but there are concerns considering he's just not at his best yet, and I think it's still to come.
Yeah, it's he's their guy, and if he's not a lockdown reliever with, like we said, Brooks Raley out, with Drew Smith, who's solid this year, having a setback now, we don't know when he will be back. You're down two relievers, so, and he's not really, you're not putting him in 2-inning situations yet, so they got to find help from some. Jorge Lopez has been solid this year. Jake Diekman's been all right. But the Mets bullpen has had a lot of work to do with starters not going deep into games. What do you think about the rotation here? David Peterson on his way back. He's looked great in rehab. 5 shutout innings, I believe, on Wednesday or Tuesday in Double-A Binghamton. What do you think about the rotation and now the talk of a 6-man rotation with Tyler McGill on his way back?
Yeah, I think the rotation has been, outside of the guy that was supposed to be the most reliable in Jose Quintana, I've been pretty impressed with the rotation. Too many walks from the entire pitching staff, but I think Severino is much like Edwin Diaz in the manage that he's got another gear. I think he's got elite level competition still left in the tank. If he can eliminate those 3-ball counts all the time, I think he can start going 7-8 on a consistent basis. Sean Manaea has been very, very good. He's been the guy that they signed. I like that signing. Adrian Hauser was an experiment. I thought he was going to be steady. I like him to the bullpen. I think that's a good move. They gave Jose Butto, which again, this is David Stern's turn. They gave Jose Butto a longer stint, and he showed that he still got some young hiccups and he'll walk guys when he doesn't need to, and the hit by pitches. So I don't mind the option, and I like the turn, but I love David Peterson as a pitcher. I truly do. I know it hasn't been amazing, but having seen his stuff at his best and then having had hip surgery as a pitcher, that is such a gradual thing that decreases everything that you can put forth. And it's so, by the time you have your hip surgery and you start to feel good, you're like, holy shit, I didn't even remember what it was like to pitch healthy, because it slowly eats away at your mechanics and your velocity and your stuff. So to see him back, I think he's going to be a number 3 type starter. I expect him to have that kind of ability. Am I missing anybody? Oh, Christian Scott. Yeah. He makes to think tomorrow is his 3rd start, but man, how fun is it, Jake, to think about Christian Scott as an elite prospect?
Yeah, no, he's been electric, and I love that first inning where he got out of that jam. Friends, family, all watching your home state, and to get out of that shows he's got cojones clearly. And see, we have things to be excited about, but when the offense scored 1 run, it's frustrating. Like my favorite inning was when I'm in the Cadillac Club Sunday. They have the bunt, the sack bunt, and then the home run. Like that's Jake 101.
Beautiful.
Like, my bunt is a favorite play in baseball. You give me 2 bunts back to back, put it in Cooperstown, and like that's what I love to see. They got to
What's
play
your favorite
complementary.
play in baseball?
I love a bunt.
A bunt.
A bunt single.
So Tomas, I was going to say, so Tomas Nido is your favorite player because he's the best bunter on the Mets.
I'm a bunt single kind of guy. So like a Starling like McNeil, if he almost bunts every time, he's going to hit 280. Like
He should bunt more often,
especially that
when
drag bunt.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that swinging bunt. It's like an Al Leiter special he puts on. So I love when he does that. I'll let you go with this because I know you got kids to watch. Is this who the Mets are? Are they a sub 500 team? Like I keep wanting to think they're going to turn around. The bats will get going with my excuse has been the warmer weather. Listen, the weather in New York has been terrible. They haven't had consistent warmth. We know balls fly out come summertime when it's 80 degrees and sunny every day. Maybe that changes things. Does that change things, or are the Mets just a 500, sub 500 team who will trade pieces off and we see the youth come August?
I mean, the easy answer is we'll see. That's one of those things. They're going to tell us who they are. They're very capable. They're not a pretender in the sense that they don't have the ability to challenge for a playoff spot. Their expectations weren't to give the Phillies and the Braves a run for their money in the NL East. Our expectations was that they're going to chase that second, third wild card spot. They're still in that. They're still that. But they still have room to grow. Hopefully, with whatever that's going on with Kodai Senga, they're looking for him. If he comes back, they need that front of the rotation kind of steadiness. If Alonso gets going, if McNeil gets going, if they get some consistency from the bottom half of their lineup, they could win and they can go on a run. And then with Senga and Severino and Edwin Diaz at the back, they can actually do some damage in the playoffs. But we've seen the type of play that they've been putting together. It's up to them. They're capable of doing it. We'll see on the field if they underperform and they have to sell off pieces, or if they go for something and they might trade for a piece that kind of help them. So it's up to these guys. They're capable of doing it. They're playing hard. That's the one thing, again, with Carlos Mendoza. These guys are fighting. They're not giving up. I haven't really seen them roll over. Yesterday's game was like let's turn the channel. That was not the team's fault. Joey Lucchesi got beat up a little bit, and then it just kind of, sometimes you're going to run into an Aaron Nola. Sometimes you're going to run into a Max Fried. But all the other games, they've been competitive, and they play hard. They for the most part, they play sound defense, and it's a fun brand of baseball to watch. But when they're losing like they are, they'll decide their fates. If they think they want to keep this team together, they'll start winning ball games, and if not, they'll play hard and they'll ship some guys out.
Yeah, Wednesday night was not a good night for you to be on a post game. Luckily, you were not, because everyone had turned the channel, and then of course they score like 3 runs, and I missed a JD Martinez homer, second homer. I was there Saturday. It's the homer. His first over breaks up a no-hitter.
That was nice.
The Mets almost getting no hit a few times in the same week. That's how it's been going. And I agree. I think they've showed you the grit. They've showed the poise, the comeback ability, leading the league in walk-off wins. I mean, they've clearly showed they have fight in them, and that's why it's frustrating that right now the bats are just dead. But hopefully they do get it going. You can watch Jerry Blevins this weekend on the SMY pre and post.
I have a little bit of a plug. Is that okay?
Yeah, well, you got a book you got coming out too?
I am part of the ownership group of a thing called Field of Dreams Whiskey.
Ooh.
It's whiskey made by the corn from the most famous cornfield in the world. We released last year. So that's called our player series. So this year we have like 24,000 bottles that are going to go up, one for each player that has made their debut in the big leagues. Last year, we sold 2,000 bottles online, and it sold out in 10 minutes. This year we have 5,000 up for sale. And those are just the ones that go in the bottle. It's May 20th at 3 p.m. Eastern at drinkfieldofdreams.com. It's really cool. They're hand numbered. Like, I'll show you mine. So
I was going to say, let me see a bottle here.
So this is the back of it. They're hand numbered. That's my debut number. It's 19,230, and you can tell I've had a little bit. Not today though. It's too early.
Last night, watching the Mets last night.
Had I done that. But You don't know who you're going to get. You can look it up on the website. You can look it up on Baseball Reference, whatever it is. But it's really cool and it's delicious. So if you're a bourbon fan, it's got a baseball tie-in. I mean, how sweet is this logo? That Drew Storen is one of my former teammates with the Nationals. He's the founder. Those little baseball kernels. It's a fun product. It's great for Father's Day. They should ship in time if you get them. Again, drakefieldofdreams.com. The May 20th at 3 p.m. if you can. If not, no big deal. But I wanted to push. I think I would get in trouble by my owners if I didn't do that.
No, I'm glad you did. Everyone needs a drink here and there, and watching this team, you really need a drink. It's a Mets show. We need a drink sponsor here. So Field of Dreams Whiskey, check it out. Even if it's not on May 20th, I'm sure you can order it after that. And there weren't any more online sales from that, but we're sold in like 5 states so far, opening up more this summer. We're in a few ballparks. We're at the Braves ballpark. We're trying to come to New York is a different market. It's kind of tough not to crack. There's a lot behind the scenes, but we're trying to come into all the ballparks. Again, drinkfieldofdreams.com. There it is, drinkfieldofdreams.com and the Shea Station podcast, him and Jolly Olive with John Boy Media at Jerry Blevins on Twitter. Jerry, great to catch up with you.
Thanks, Jake.
I'm going to have a drink later today. I'm actually going to a Stefan Marbury event, so I'll be hanging with Starbury. I told my dad, and he sent me a picture of the sneakers that he still has. They were like $18. They obviously went bankrupt because that's just a steal of a price. For
him and Shaq like doing amazing things for the shoe wear game. I appreciate them.
Yeah, we need those affordable shoes, and we need great analysts like Jerry Blevins. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All righty, great stuff there from Jerry Blevins. He is fantastic. He's got kids to watch. I can't relate to that life. No children to watch. One of one. But yeah, like Jerry said, like this roster has pieces. Like it's not a bunch of bums. Talking about batting champs, home run kings, 30-30 Lindor. Like Nimmo, like these are good baseball players who are not playing good baseball. There will be a time, though, where we're like, all right, enough's enough. And the Mets chose the trade deadline last year to say enough is enough with these guys. And it was probably the right call. A little bit of a different situation. Some contracts that lingered, guys' monies that they ate up. This might be a little tougher. Alonso's an expiring contract, but he's a beloved Met. Jeff McNeil is a $31 million over the next 2 years and then has a club option, which would probably get denied if he's playing like he is. So a little bit of a different situation this year, but kind of the same where you might be in a tough boat and have to just sell pieces and bring up the youth. It's going to be youth playing. You would think August, September. It's not DJ Stewart. It's not the cast-offs guys. I don't even remember their names from last year. Journeyman. It's, the Acuñas, the Cliffords. It's those young guys we were raving about in spring training who might get their shot. Those would be the guys. But on May 16th, it's not the time. Maybe that Steve Cohen tweet, that deleted tweet, is a kick in the ass for these guys to actually start hitting. I agree. I think Alonso's been turning around a bit. Lindor kind of is. But the rest of the lineup, very frustrating. Starling Marte's been inconsistent. Bader's been a bit inconsistent now. McNeil, like we said, it sucked. Unfortunately, when Alvarez went down, they've got nothing out of catcher. Absolutely nothing from Omar Narvaez and Tomas Nido. You knew when he went down it would take a hit, but it's really taken a hit. And Narvaez has not been good, and Nido's been Nido. Occasional single, sack bunt, decent defense. He's been okay, but they really took a nosedive when Alvarez went down. So, this Mets team is 4 games under now. Something's got to give here. They got one more against the Phillies on Thursday in Philadelphia. And then listen, you got to take care of business against the last place Marlins. They're the only team below you in the standings. You really need to sweep. You need to go down to Miami, take your talents to South Beach, and sweep the Marlins. Really, you got to close out, get a victory on Thursday. Find a way to win in Philly. sweep the Marlins, and you're back to 500. Sounds a lot easier than it is. But at least win series. And then you get the Guardians. You go to Cleveland for 3. And then you got the long homestand. You got the Giants for 3. You got the Dodgers for 3. And then you got the D-backs for 4. A 10-game homestand after that. And I'm curious where the team is after that 10-game homestand. On June 3rd, when they go to D.C. and face the Nationals for 3, I want to see where the Mets are. Are they 500 or better? Are they way below 500? Where are they? Because I think the leash gets shorter and shorter by the day of Jeff McNeil ground outs, strikeouts, unproductive outs, and just straight up outs. Where you might just say, hey, it's time to sit. And that might mean Jose Iglesias. We thought maybe McNeil does go to the IL. We thought he was going to be badly hurt when he fouls the ball right off his kneecap on Wednesday and stayed in, but they don't really have a backup infielder. So we'll see if that lingers and if Jose Iglesias gets the call up. Doesn't have a lot of range, but as a veteran, has hit okay so far in AAA. He's hit better than Acuna, and he's a veteran, so more of a chance that he gets his shot up here with the Mets. But something's got to give here for this Mets team. It has been almost unwatchable at times. Sunday was great, and I highly recommend if you can pull it off, a weekday game, prices drop, do the Cadillac Club. I had a blast on Sunday there, ended in a walk-off. It's the only win in the last week. The team, literally the last week, because you had the rain out Wednesday. Thursday was a day off. They haven't won in a week. It's been unbelievable. They, besides Sunday, the last win was Tuesday, May 7th. I mean, unreal. And Monday you should have had, obviously, the check swing, but man, it's been brutal to watch. But great stuff there from Jerry Blevins. We appreciate him coming on. We appreciate you for listening. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. Write a nice review. Watch us on that Sick Podcast Mets Magic YouTube page at the Sick Podcast Mets Magic on YouTube and Sick Pod Mets on Twitter. Follow us there. And yeah, great stuff there from Jerry. We appreciate you listening. Smash that thumbs up below. We appreciate it. Comment below. How do the Mets turn this around? What do you think of Steve Cohen's tweet? I didn't think he should have fired it off, but I think you got to keep that to yourself. And this blogger must be a good blogger, because why is he clearly read the blog, because the tweet didn't have anything about trades and trade deadline. So he read the blog and replied to a tweet. Imagine he commented on the blog itself and no one would saw it, but obviously someone would have screenshotted the comment on the blog. But instead he replied to the tweet, and then he realized, yeah, that wasn't smart. Maybe he was drinking some of that Field of Dreams whiskey watching that Met game. But clearly he's fed up, and we're all fed up. Be better. Start hitting. Show us the grit that you have shown us. Win some baseball games, because you're better than this. You have better players than 4 games under 500. And when the pitching's been solid and has surprised us, it's really unfortunate when the offense and the guys getting paid big bucks and the guys like Pete Alonso want a massive contract are hitting like shit. You have to be better than that. This is the big league. No more playing around. And we're not going to use the excuse of the weather hasn't been good. That excuse in any day now is going to go out the window when it gets better, but we can't use weather as an excuse and rainouts as an excuse for bad baseball. Start playing complimentary baseball, getting on base however you can. Stop swinging at 0-2 pitches and find ways to win baseball games. Because if not, it's going to be another long, long season in Queens. And a historically bad at Citi Field attendance could be on the way, because it's been ugly so far. And there's no giveaways that can get people to come out every night to watch a team if they're playing like this. So step it up. Thanks for listening and watching the Sick Podcast Mets Magic. I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Radio. We'll talk to you guys next week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Mets Magic on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.